Welcome. This is a Destiny movie night about the movie called Chappie, and we are talking about many points. And this is a special event because we have no guests, but we are all of us are hosts. And let me introduce you, Sylvia.
Hi.
And Anna.
Hi everyone.
And this is a live session, and anyone can ask questions in the Q&A session. And we should just jump right into the discussion. And girls, what do you want to talk about Chappie in the first place?
Oh, maybe it's cool to just lay out a little bit what the movie is about. Maybe that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Well, Chappie is a robot. And in the movie, he gets consciousness, awareness. And he has a creator called Tian, and that's like a nerd that does a lot of programming. And, well, the whole movie is going about him learning things, becoming aware of things, and a robot that is just walking away from bad guys saying, "Oh, please don't hurt me." And this kind of robot was initially a robot that was used as a cop robot for the police.
Yeah.
And it's also taking place in South Africa. The whole scenery is there in Johannesburg, where there are a lot of riots and a lot of chaos. And so that was the point where the cop robots came in. Well, I don't think I'm going to say more because I can speak for half an hour then what the movie is about. So maybe, well, let's start.
Yeah. I was just looking at if there are other things for, like, if anyone is watching who hasn't seen the movie,
Yeah.
anything that would be, well, okay, so one thing we can mention is that, so this robot is broken from the beginning. He's about to be, or the robot, the thing, the machine, is about to be destroyed because it has a defect battery that causes, like, the battery is, how do you say, melted into the metal.
Yeah.
So it cannot be fixed. It cannot be changed. So if it was to be started up again, it will only last as long as the battery can last inside the robot. So it only basically has 4 or 5 days to live, so to speak. So the guy works at this tech company where they create all these robots, and he asks his boss if he can experiment with it, and she says no, and then he steals it and he does it anyway. And he inserts this master key into it as he's been playing with programming artificial intelligence and the ability for a machine to be self-aware. So basically when it is born, so to speak, with the self-awareness or consciousness, it only has these 4 or 5 days to live, and it is then more or less like it's taken hostage by these three criminals, where 2 of them are played by the rappers and singer from the Antword, which is an underground South African band that has like a specific following, a specific subculture. That's like a whole different story. But so there's this like power struggle between the creator, the programmer, this nerd that Sylvia was saying, and then these criminals that have like their own agenda for what they want. Like they want to use the robot as a weapon, basically.
Yeah, and there's also a part where they want to get rid of all the police robots. I don't know if that's further in the movie, but that was also the case.
Yeah, like a switch to turn on all of the police scouts.
Yeah, so the movie's basically taking place somewhere in the near future, where the idea is that the majority of the police force has been, can you say robotized, or made into machines. And there's also this, the Johannesburg is like, there's so much crime and all this. But guys, what did you see? Like, what were the core points that you guys saw in the movie that made it interesting?
Well, for me was the point, and you had the same, I believe, Anna, that there was a girl in this gang, let's put it that way, and she was called Yo-landi, and there was Ninja. Maybe he was the big guy in this little gang, and they through all kinds of circumstances became the mom and dad of this robot. And that was quite interesting because they suddenly became father and mother. And then she was really getting into it, like, oh, yeah, cute, and I have to do something with it. And the dad, so to speak, well, he hadn't any daddy-like feeling, so he was confronted with it quite in a harsh way. And he was more like manipulating the child, so to speak. He was going to teach it bad things. Yeah, so it was quite cool.
Yeah, I've actually found that it was giving like nice references to that point of parenting, and especially like how it's like to grow up with abusive parents.
Yeah.
Which kind of also relates to, it's kind of interesting in these movies, you know, also with aliens, that there always has to be a component in how they are that is similar to us as humans, because otherwise we can't relate to them.
Yeah. And also, like this robot, they had to put in all the information, and then it would evolve in more. It could make, like, say, networks and work from there. And it was interesting to see what the various people would like to put into this robot, what they wanted.
Yeah, like what is really important to be a real man, like robot, like how he's walking and doing this ninja style stuff.
Yeah.
Like it is really important to appear and act.
Yeah, but that's the same in reality, because a lot of people want to put a lot of different things into a child. So the society wants to put different things in it. Parents want to installing in a way different things in it. So that was quite realistic in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was interesting because the programmer, who was this like very proper nerdy guy, he, in the beginning of the movie, he gave it this command, and he said, I'm your creator, so you have to do what I say, and I say that you cannot commit any crimes. Yeah. You cannot sell drugs. You cannot engage in these and these and these activities. And so that kind of interfered with the other guys, the criminals, their plan for basically corrupting him and getting him, you know, they just wanted him to do what they wanted, and he kept saying, I'm not allowed to do that because I can't do crime, which was kind of interesting.
Can do heist, yeah. They wanted to make him heist, like rob a truck of money.
Yeah, money.
And he kept saying, I can't do that, I can't do that.
And then with the car, they wanted him to steal a car, but he didn't get it right, because it was the first time they wanted it. And then they said, oh, that nice, really expensive car, just go and say to him, you may not steal it from daddy. So he walked up to this car, and the guy was sitting in it, and was like, oh, the cops. And he didn't know what he did wrong. And then the robot, Chappie, was going to slam the whole car into pieces. And then he came back to Daddy, and Daddy was quite angry with him, because he said, well, you had to steal it from him, because now we cannot sell the car. Look how it is. And well, he was really disappointed in him. And then the robot, Chappie, was also like disappointed because Daddy didn't want him anymore, in a way, because he didn't do it right. So that was also a human-like thing going on.
Yeah, it's interesting because the robot always tried to look up to these figures, like the creator or Daddy, be afraid from Daddy, and then listen to Mommy. But it's interesting because it had to be programmed like this, otherwise he wouldn't be like this. So it's like interesting, like a real human child is doing it because of it's within the DNA, or in the, you know, because it's before the language is implanted, so to speak. And then it was interesting for me, like why Chappie was afraid at the first place when there was nothing in his mind. So why being afraid? At least he got this program from the creator, so to speak. That was an interesting point for me.
Yeah, we were talking about this before the hangout, that basically he starts him up, and then the first thing is that he goes into fear, and he goes like small, and you basically have the image in your mind of a child that, you know, wakes up and is like, what the hell is this world? And then you were saying, Talamon, but how can he have fear if he's not programmed yet?
Yeah, like being self-aware would mean like being afraid at the first place.
Yeah.
I wouldn't agree like that. But then this comes that what is then self-awareness, and how a machine or an artificial intelligence can relate to even the word awareness. So what is then awareness? It's a good question.
Yeah, and as far as we know from the movie, the only thing that he had programmed him with, we didn't hear, I have programmed him to respond like a human. Like, I've put in all this code, like, you know, when you see this, you have to be afraid. So the only thing he had done differently than with all the other robots that were just like, you know, normal robots, was to give it this self-awareness. He had basically found a way to make the code for self-awareness. But I found that
changing the code. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So like making having the ability to rewrite his own code by what he perceives to be able to learn. Meanwhile, the other robots, once they were programmed and remained so rest of their lives. So he was able to learn to change himself.
But so if he had that ability, or like you could say that authority or power over himself, why was he then obedient to the other people?
Because it was programmed in him.
No, but he was just programmed to be self-aware.
Yeah, even his creator tried to teach him the point that you are yourself and you should decide for yourself. Yet he was still expecting him not to do bad things.
Yeah.
So he was just thrown out to find out what is good, what is bad.
Yeah, it was interesting how the programmer had this kind of little bit like snobby high culture. So he was like wanting him to listen to classical music or like paint.
Yeah.
Which is interesting that's like there's this assumption that is good. You know, he said, I wrote down, he said something about like nurture your creativity. You know, so he was like representing the kind of good parent, the good like progressive parent, and then the other guy was like the low social, you know, teaching him to be a criminal like him and abusing him.
Yeah, but Chappie was nurturing his creativity because he was not allowed to shoot. But then they offered him these ninja knives and stars, and he started throwing them, and and then they said, well, you cannot kill, but you can just make them go to sleep and just stick it around with a knife in and they, it feels nice. The dad said that, it feels nice. And I was thinking at that moment, whoa, I don't hope he's going to sleep, because then maybe the robot is saying, oh, daddy, you want to go to sleep? I just go with the knife in your body and make you go to sleep. So yeah, that was a weird part.
So as a parent, I would be interested in knowing, since you're the only parent of us here, Sylvia, have you experienced this with your children, like when they were small, that you would tell them something, but then maybe you weren't being specific enough, and then they would follow what you said, but then it had like not the result that you wanted?
Well, I probably have, but I always explained myself a lot, so let's say when we went out for shopping, then I said, okay, come on, we're going to put our jacket on, and then we go by a car, and then we go this and then, and we go home in like half an hour. But, well, they must have had moments where they didn't understand me and did something else. But I haven't had moments like that I lost faith in them, like the daddy not wanting to crash the car but just steal it or slam the car. No, I don't have a nice example for you, Anna. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's fine. It was just an interest. It's interesting how when we watch these movies, we see so many different points.
But I do have an example of my own, because one time, well, maybe it's a long story, but it was like I was playing with a girl outside, and there was this old lady asking us how late it was, what the time was, and we were just scared by the old lady. And we had heard a lot of stories about old ladies or old men just tricking children with a nice candy, you know, that kind of scenario. So we thought, oh boy, this is an old lady, and she wants to just kidnap us. So we had already in our mind a big story. So we ran home and we hide ourselves under the table and in the house of my friend. And the mom said, well, what's wrong? And then we said, well, we cannot go outside because there's this old lady and she wants to catch us. And, and then they called the police, because in that area were a lot of guys already that had the candy thing and tried to kidnap children. So the story evolved, and it went worse and worse, and we just thought, well, just talk along and just say yes, it was really bad and this and that. And then all of a sudden we said, well, it was a man, it wasn't a woman, so it was really worse. And then our parents eventually knew, or we had to tell them that it wasn't true, because we didn't want the police to come over and just ask us things. And then, yeah, I saw in my parents' eyes this disappointment. Like, okay, why are you just lying about such a stupid thing? What are you seeking? Attention or what? And also her parents. So that was a moment maybe similar.
Okay. So we have some comments here. Hi, we're going to delete your comments because they're not really relevant to this hangout. So thanks for watching. Glad to know that you're with us. We're reviewing the movie Chappie here from the Desteni I Process channel from a Destonian perspective. So let's see, what else do we have? I want to hear more about Talman, your perspectives on the whole AI thing, because as someone who has worked with code and with programming, and you said that you've even studied AI on AI being artificial intelligence at the university. What did you see? What else did you see in relation to this?
I must start it that I learned programming, and then we had subjects like artificial intelligence, but I didn't. It was not that advanced high level, but we learned the basics. But it's interesting to see how machines work, and even now when we see that machines are getting more and more complicated, like self-driving cars or self-driving drones and spaceships and everything. And it's basically making the same decisions as we do, and it has limits. And how it can relate to Chappie, it's interesting because it's always within its programming, and there is a language which by it's programmed. And I found, I studied more and more, and I found more and more similarity with my own mind. And it might mean that I am also an organic robot, and I had to realize that, oh, then I must be able to change my own code, my own consciousness, and it's based on words. And then it was fascinating, because that's why I found Desteni. It's really practical, because I am exploring words and how I am reacting to words and how I am bound to certain limitations, certain self-dishonesties, and how I can use this understanding of programming, so to speak, to change myself. And in a way, when I was not really proud of my aspects, like I did bad things and I did regret it, but I did it anyway again. So it was really like a shameful point. And in that moment, I had to realize that I have to take responsibility, you know, and then understand how my own programming is working, because many points I just learned as Chappie in the culture, and also many points I just concluded like this is a good idea to act like this, and then didn't go well, but I couldn't change because I couldn't understand how I ended up at the first place. So artificial intelligence in this movie, it's like there is a basic program, and then Chappie tries to overcome his fear. Like his fear comes up like he's afraid to die, because when he realizes that he has only 2-3 days now, and then he goes into this reasoning of the ninja, saying that, okay, we're gonna make a lot of money and then buy a new battery so you can leave. Do you want to die, Chappie? Like this dog is dead, or you want to leave? And then Chappie makes the decision, and then from that point he's manipulated into anything, basically.
That is such a cool point, because isn't that what we all do? Like, don't we all compromise ourselves to such a degree because we're afraid of dying, essentially, or missing out, or not having enough, and then we allow ourselves to, compromise our integrity and essentially that life that we want to hold on to out of fear.
Yeah, and also how he, at a certain point, said, I hate my creator for just not letting me live longer. So he really hated. And that's also a point we see in ourselves. Maybe not saying, well, we hate, our creator, God, whatever belief or system you have. But it's more like a form of not taking any self-responsibility, I think.
Yeah, like a blame.
Yeah. Like, oh, you did it. But then he just took himself and, worked on a solution.
Yeah, and then I was also looking at the other aspect of that discussion, which would be, instead of seeing, like, are we also artificial intelligence, to then also ask the question, is Chappie also alive? Is Chappie living? There's this quote from the movie that says, I am consciousness, I am alive, I am Chappie. So there is this equation between consciousness and being alive, and then that is from where you get, you become you. So that's also like a question, is a robot alive? Because, that's one of the points of justification that they use in the movie to abuse Chappie, where they say, like, he's just a machine. He can't really get hurt, and it doesn't matter if we break him or whatever, because we don't have to honor him in the same way that we would honor other human beings. But isn't that, don't we exactly do that? We do that with animals, we do that with our earth, we even do that with, like, other races, we even do that with children. He's just a child. People. He doesn't understand anything, or she's just a woman, where we, so to speak, dehumanize or I don't know how to say it. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Andrea just made a cool comment that she just watched the movie Ex Machina, which is about robot AI, which Drew thought was interesting. It seems that this is a common theme for many movies. Do you think these movies are made to point out our own robotness? And it's a cool point because, we are just finding out what life is and what life is not, basically within this whole responsibility. And it's a cool point that many movies like Transcendence also was like this. And even within this movie, they store and transfer their own consciousness. Like it could be like a data.
Yeah. And also, like, he had emotions, but did he really had emotions? Because when we have emotions with all these energetic charges to it, it's completely different, because he could change from 1 minute to the other. If one guy said, well, just not walk like this, but walk like that, he was perfectly walking in another way. And as you said, Telemon, earlier, it's quite hard to just change. If you just do this, and, your motivation is not always to, change, because there's so many energy there left to just, yummy energy. And we want to stay in that. So I didn't see really real emotions in a way. He was programmed to fear things, but not in a way we humans do. We go further.
But it's interesting, that whole thing of, if you are going to create a robot, or not just a robot, but if you're going to create artificial intelligence, that the only point of reference we have is ourselves. And it's like, our bodies are perfect, yes, But we, as a species or as an organic machine, are far from being perfect. Like, why would we want to focus on creating? I mean, obviously, there's the whole machine aspect, that makes them actually a lot more cool than us because they can handle things that our bodies can't handle. But it's interesting that we would put that focus in making them like us when we're in fact so flawed. That first point, which is the first point he experiences in his existence as a conscious being, is fear, which would indicate that that is how we identify ourselves. That is how, when we watch the movie and you see him crawl, that he's a little baby and he's afraid. And there's also this scene which I actually had a emotional, like a slight emotion, like a mother reaction to, when they drop him off in the middle of nowhere and these guys beat him up and he has to run and he sits there all by himself. That we program these things that essentially makes us less effective in this world. Or like you said, when he gets this fear of dying, he starts compromising himself and the principles that he has. So why would we do that? That's interesting.
Yeah, and also basically, as I see as the human being exists, that there is this sort of original fear, and then we use that to justify, to build up these personalities, and then this is who I am, I work there, and this is my opinion, this is good, this is bad, and basically building up all this mind, and then it's difficult to change because we have resistance, as you said, because we have these energetic experiences, and then it's a complicated system. But if we start to really decompose these parts of the system, then we can have the ability to release or even prevent to these energetic experiences, and then we can really change. Like I was so nervous to talk into camera or talk in English, and then I was pushing myself and decomposing and forgiving the patterns to be aware of it and not go into it again. So I am proving to myself that I can change, and it is really a fascinating point, because if we can do it, then anyone, how can I say, like the AI also could really change, because if there is a resistance, there is a hidden agenda, so to speak, as I see. So that's why it's cool to explore.
But it's kind of interesting that that the whole point of creating these machines, like the whole starting point, is that we want to create something that we can use.
Yeah.
Like that we can use and consume, and that we don't have to care about. Like they have to basically be our slaves, and they are not aware, they're not a part of life, so we don't, we can just use them however we want. But if we look at it from a little bit of a deeper perspective, we are creating them in our image and likeness in a way as creators. And in a certain perspective, you could say that they're an extension of ourselves. So they're actually a reflection of our own separation from ourselves. Just look at the term artificial intelligence. That it's not, it's artificial, it's not something that's real. I mean, that could even be discussed as well.
Yeah.
But then I was also looking at this whole point with the situation that they're in with the police, and why they're creating these robots in the first place. And there's also this like really bad guy in the movie that he just wants robots, and he doesn't care. He creates an entire war just because he wants to use his robots.
Yeah, I was thinking about another point just a little bit back. Can I, or?
Sure.
Yeah, well, I was thinking it's also a point of superiority, because we want to, well, in our likeness, we want to make a robot that's exactly like us, but then we can make a machine, like a computer, that is just going from zeros and ones and can do just, well, can make a perfect example. And then we just put our mind in it that has so many flaws.
Yes.
Well, why?
Yes. Because that's all
That's
that
so stupid.
we think we're so amazing.
Yeah, that's the whole point. And that's also when we said, well, we're more than animals, and we're more than well, machines, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Here we are destroying our planet, and then we want to create more of
of the
ourselves.
stupid. Yeah.
And you know what? A really good example of this is the movie I, Robot. Have you guys watched that?
No.
Yeah.
So that's another AI movie, and in this movie, they create basically the perfect super computer, like the best computer that's ever existed. And this computer is programmed to do what is best for all of humanity. That it is its only purpose, okay? So it has to like calibrate what is best for all of humanity. And then it calibrates, or not just humanity, but for the earth. And then it calibrates that the humanity is a threat to existence. So it decides that it has to kill all of humanity.
Wow.
And then like the conclusion of the movie is that they destroy the AI, and then they're like, but we want our flawed selves with our emotions and our feelings, and it's okay, we're not that bad. But actually, like, I remember when I saw that movie, it was like, but it was right, you know, that's what you programmed it with, like a perfect purpose to protect existence. And then instead of saying, okay, since we are the threat, maybe we should change, they go and then they destroy the computer that was supposed to help them.
Yeah, or kill the humans. There was also a chance to change the humans, but the machine
Yes.
didn't think of that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe we are so unreliable, so they feared us. Yeah. Yeah, well, funny. And also at the end of the movie, I was amazed that. Well, no, there's something in between, because there was also that Chappie. He knew he was going to die.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was figuring out how he could put this consciousness of him and take it into another robot. So he was studying and doing all kinds of programming in between all kinds of chaotic things and violent things. And then suddenly he found it out, and he experimented also on his mom, Yo-landi, and at the same time, we didn't see what happened, but he did take a USB stick. Yeah, funny. Only one USB stick, where her entire mind was on. And in the end, the creator and her became also robots. But her how do you say it? Robot body was created really like a human, with a human face, like a mask. And the others were just, the cop robots like they already had. So that was also interesting to just end it with that, like, we are superior. Look, it has a human face.
Yeah.
Like that.
Or maybe it was because she was the mother.
Yeah. She had to be beautiful because she was a woman.
Yeah. Interesting. But okay, so just before we go or we leave it here, could we just discuss this point with the police state, that whole part of the movie? We haven't really discussed that side of it. So there's this guy that's the bad guy, that's Hugh Jackman, who's like, he's a real asshole. And he has these huge robots, and all he cares about is just having them out on the street and seeing how cool they are. So what did you guys see about that?
And the way he is just like with a joystick, like a computer game, using this machine. So he's not in it, but he's in a... Yeah, well, there was also an ego point, I think, because he wanted to be a big guy, and he wanted to control, in a way, existence, or the little existence that was there.
Yeah, in the beginning also he had some good points when the movie started, and there were these interviews, introductory of these elements, forces of the movie, and then he's making the point that being a police human is important to be a human, not a robot, because at certain situations a human can make a different decisions, about what is right or what is wrong or what is effective or being human, so to speak. But then, as we see that he's compromising himself because going into this kind of rage and just wanting to go out and shoot everything up and then prove that his robot is the best.
Yeah.
And then he's got really obsessive and possessive. And it was an interesting point.
He was cutting a human in half and then throwing it to the walls. I was
I'm
like,
sorry,
whoa!
I'm laughing.
I don't know if I
America,
want to
the
see
guy,
it.
one of the band members.
Yeah,
or the
American
crew
or the
members.
Yankee or yeah.
It's interesting because when you see him the first time, he's basically kind of operating a drone. So it's kind of also a comment on drones and drone strikes and that whole like the political side of that. But the feeling that I actually got when he was doing it was that, oh, this is like a computer game reference. So
Yeah.
because it really looked like a computer game. So I was
Yeah.
thinking that the creators of the movie wanted to make like that critical sort of reference to computer games being bad, or that point of being distanced from the violence. Did you guys see that as
Yeah,
well?
that could be, yeah. Because he was really enjoying it and didn't even see that he was cutting so many. Yeah, he did see it, but it didn't fully came in. Like because he was not sitting on the scene itself. He was in a, well, what was it? A big hall where he was.
Yeah, safely far away.
Yeah.
So he basically had to dehumanize
separated.
himself and make
Yeah.
himself a robot to be able to not care about life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And also there was an interesting point when they tried to sell it to the police, and then the policeman was like saying that we don't want this, it's overkill, expensive and ugly. When he was explaining that the high explosives and flying and very effectively shooting everything, and they say that they don't need. But then when Chappie started to do this riot stuff, they put it into action anyway. So
Because the boss, the big boss, this lady said, well, just use it, because she was out of solutions. Yeah. Yeah, and also in the beginning where these policemen were just walking behind the robots, I was getting the feeling that they felt weak, so they needed the strong robots to handle the riots in the city. And that's why they put them in. And then later on, they just eliminated the whole robot cop. How do you see it? Yeah, the whole unit or whatever. Yeah,
force.
And then humans were the best thing to come up with. And they had to they got a lot more humans. Then they had to gather a lot of more. Yeah. Because
so with South Africa being known as being one of the countries in the world with the most crime, do you guys kind of see this movie as a form of commentary on the situation in South Africa?
Yeah, definitely. As I've been there, and also I know Anna, you've been there in South Africa, and also it's not really the nicest place, one of the nicest places. And then no one is asking why it's happening and how it happened, and because it seems like it's out of control, and they want to have this power state to control. But even the guys, they were like criminals, and then they made decisions within their lives, and then they became these criminals, and then from that point, there was no turning back. So even the policemen just wanted to kill them, but no one cared about their point or what would be the solution, even for the criminals, or because it was just about money, because they needed the money to survive. It was extreme because of the other gangster guy, and then. But anyway, it's just about money, and then the whole human system is also created by humans, and it's programmed so deeply, and then we just try to overcome and control already fucked up points, and it's just really like kids try to solve it with wrestling, but it's really not an adult decision what we make, or even the police making this kind of brute force, and then the riots are coming, so it's obviously not a solution. It was a good point for me also to realize that this is actually happening, and probably they are also investigating this robot introductionally. So South Africa is like an experiment live, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm not sure how specific it was because we didn't see any government in it. It was only this police, this firm that had the robots. There were no really background information about well, like Anna said, what was going on in the country. Why were these riots there? And
Yeah.
was it the poor against the rich or the black against the white? Well, there was no clue. We had no clue whatsoever. So maybe it was merely a nice scenery that I used.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't see a direct message.
I would say that it's specific, but you can see it not so much. Well, I would agree that it is also specific because it's in South Africa, but also, like we discussed and that Andrea mentioned in her comment, that this movie is another one in a long line of movies about the same topics.
Yeah.
About AI, about consciousness transferal, about rioting, about automation. Okay, I can't say the word.
Oh, we get a clue.
Wait. Let me get automation. Did I get it? Okay, I have to practice this word. Automatizing. No, I'm still not getting it. Okay, you know what I mean. Of the police force. So all of these topics are reoccurring all the time in movies, and I would say that that's very specific, but maybe that's a discussion for another time. But we can say that the same people that has made Chappie also made District 9, and you were saying, Talman, that they also made Elysium.
Yeah.
That has similar topics as well. So, any last words, guys, on any realizations or insights?
Well, think before you bring a robot into the world. Or maybe think before you bring a child into the world.
Yes. And if you do bring a child into the world, realize that Yes, realize that they will copy you, that they will they will not learn from what you say, they will learn from what you are and what you do. Yes.
Yeah.
I would also say that we can learn what words are, and we can understand words and how we can change the meaning of words, and then change who we really are in terms of what we do, as you said, because we can change who we are in terms of what we give as a meaning or purpose, who we are. And for that, Desteni I Process is really cool online course, the free course, to just understand how we can deal or face ourselves or mind or fear or desires, to take direction and then be responsible. That's all.
Very nice. Nice in the last words. Okay, guys, so we will be back. We will be back here on this channel on Tuesday with another DIP hangout in our series on practical self-empowerment. That should definitely be interesting. You can watch or see all the scheduled hangouts that are upcoming on our DIP Lite Facebook page. You can subscribe to our events there, so that you'll get an update in your mailbox on Facebook on when there's a new hangout coming out.
Yeah,
all right.
And also Anna, we have also DIP hangouts in different languages. So if you're not fluent in English, then we have, for instance, a Dutch one. So
Yes, I completely forgot to say that, but that's good that you say it. And they're also on this channel.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, everyone, and we will be back.
Bye.